Oh, okay, Mary, you're ready to go.
Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. We're going to stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everybody. We are going to start today with a presentation of the village's transit-oriented development study. Before we do that, I want to welcome Ethan Eidenberg, who is joining me as mayor for the day. Quickly just say where you are in school and your interests.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm Ethan, as you said. I'm 16 years old and I'm a junior at Irvington High School, right up the road. I'm, I guess, a mayor for the day. And yeah.
Thank you. So the presentation is from VHB and its partner firms Studio B and Bayer. I can never say his name. Bayer, Blinder, and Bell, architects and planners. Hi, welcome.
Thank you. We're happy to be here.
If I could, I'd like to give a brief introduction and walk the public through the process we took to get to this point. So the village got a New York State grant in the amount of $213,300 to perform a transit-oriented development study. This is looking at specific type of zoning code that is attractive to walkability, high density, multifamily housing, and we're specifically targeting the areas around the Irvington train station, just off of Main Street. So we originally put out an RFP, I want to say in the latter part of 25. We got 11 submissions. There are 2 finalists, and VHB is the firm that is selected to make the presentation to the board today. I would be remiss if I didn't thank co-chairs Larry Lonke and Julia Steinmetz for helping me work through this process, as well as our entire TOD zoning committee. We're very excited. We think it's a really good project, and I appreciate you coming to join us tonight.
And we're thrilled to be here.
Okay, so we'll jump in. Thanks for having us. If you can go to the next slide, we'll start with some introductions about who is meeting from the team today. That is me, Allison Ruddock, acting as principal in charge on behalf of VHB for the project. In my role as principal in charge, I'll be responsible for supporting the team that you see on the screen here, and then everybody supporting this team in moving the transit-oriented development project forward. We are joined by our colleagues at Bayer, Blinder, Bell, BBB, and Studio V. We've put together this team in response to this RFP because we have worked really well, our 3 firms together in the past on a number of different projects that are similar to this one, and we are very collaborative, not just a collection of firms, but people who work together well, really bounce each other's ideas off each other and with the towns and places that we work. So I'll turn it to Andrew Buck to introduce himself.
Yeah, and you'll hear more of my introduction later, but I'm Andrew Buck. I'm a senior urban planner technologist out of our New York City office, but I've grown up in the river towns from Dobbs Ferry. So I've spent a lot of time in Irvington throughout my life as well. I'll be acting as your project manager. And I'll pass it to Gina Martini, who's joining us remotely.
My name is Gina Martini. Hope you can all hear me. I
Yep.
am a professional planner with nearly 30 years of experience, including about 27 years working with communities across Westchester and the Lower Hudson Valley. My expertise centers on land use, zoning, seeker compliance, and I typically support both public sector initiatives and private development projects from planning through to implementation.
And we'll pass it to Neil.
Okay, hi everybody. Great to see everyone and be with you tonight. I'm Neil Kittredge. I am with Buyer Blinder Bell Architects and Planners, or BBB for short. It's easier to say. I am a partner at BBB, and I'm an architect, urban designer, and urban planner, and especially thrilled to be with you this evening talking about the TOD project, because we're very excited to be working with the Irvington community on the facilities planning project, which is in progress right now.
Hello, I'm Kathy Chan. I am a managing partner at Studio V Design and Planning. I am also an urban planner as well. And with me is my partner, Jay Valgora. He is an architect as well as a planner.
I can't hear her. Can you speak up? Sorry.
Can you hear me now? Okay, thank you. So we are a certified MWBE firm. We're a small business. We're registered with the city and the state of New York. We do a wide range of large and small scale planning projects, and we do a lot of transit-oriented development as well as waterfront sites. So we've been working with VHB for over 10 years, and we're excited to work with them some more, hopefully, on this project. Thank you.
Okay, you advance the slide, we'll have our agenda. So we'll do a little bit more diving into our team and our respective firms, how we'll be working together, what our roles are. Looking at why this transit-oriented development plan matters and what the keys are to success. We'll present some project case studies that showcase our experiences elsewhere, that have some lessons and ideas that might be applicable here, but of course, always respecting the specific geography of where we are and what comes out of the community engagement. And then we'll go into how to deliver this project, what actually the work will look like to get to a place where implementation of a plan can move forward. With that, I'd like to introduce Andrew, who will lead us through the presentation. Okay. Next slide, thanks. Like Andrew mentioned, he is very familiar with this area, having grown up here. And as a project manager, he is collaborative, he is passionate, he has ideas and creativity on how to get things done. He is receptive, he's a good listener, he's also organized and disciplined. And so with that, I'll let him go through how this project will go.
Thank you so much. And yeah, I'm thrilled to be working with the village again. I've worked with you before on the Rivertown food scrap study about a year. I can't believe it's like a year and a half ago. But and by the way, I'm happy to say that we ended up winning a Westchester Municipal Federation award for that as well. I'm looking forward to bringing that to this project. We can go to the next slide. So, what the VHB team can really bring to this project here is we're already working with you on a variety of different projects, whether it's the food scrap study or the facilities study as well. We have experience with the village. We understand what's happening here. And we also understand that you guys are incredibly serious about your climate goals too, both starting from the comp plan, but then going into the climate action plan as well. We understand how that translates into what you're trying to do with the facilities study as well. And we also understand how we can help you get there, especially with really taking the ideas that are behind
the smart growth grant that you're working with from the Department of State and really translating that into tangible action and policy as well. And what you'll see in terms of like the great work that we've done, but also like especially Gina's expertise, we really understand regulatory navigation, both within this region, but then also within Westchester and even the river towns too, because we've really helped both private and public sector clients navigate permitting and adoption as well. Next one. So our team, VHB, will be leading the effort overall. I'll be acting as your project manager. So I'll be your primary point of contact, but Gina will be a close partner as deputy project manager, but she'll also be leading the permitting process as well, and also developing the land use and zoning codes for the TOD. Studio V will be acting as the architect and design lead. So that's really going to be how do we take these codes and policies we put together and really turn that into tangible form, really model different scenarios that could happen in terms of potential development, and then communicate that to the public so that we can build a plan that that really helps everyone. And BBB will be a close partner as well with Neil, really looking first at how do we take different approaches to code, but make sure it really integrates into the historic and neighborhood character of the village as well, especially with the Main Street historic district. But at the same time, how do we balance that with the need for new development as well? So together, we're going to really help design, develop, and adopt a successful TOD zoning code. Next one. So just a little bit of context in terms of understanding the project from Irvington's perspective. The village is like really seeing its history grow alongside the river. And we've really seen, because based on maritime trade and also the kind of the nature of industry along the waterfront, we've also seen railways follow the river over time as well. So we understand that both waterfront and rail transportation are critical to integrating back into Irvington, the overall context. Also, the village has been a real leader amongst Westchester and the region in terms of pursuing sustainable development. And you can see this in your planning documents already. And we're really hoping to continue that trajectory. Also, in terms of a kind of a challenge, though, at the same time, is the need to balance development with neighborhood preservation. So we are going to be incredibly mindful about that as well as we go through the project. And then what's really unique about Irvington is topography. You know, as with a lot of river towns and Hudson River Valley communities, but Irvington's like really special in terms of how that Main Street really just goes parallel directly down, which then really influences how the housing and development patterns are and what that means for viewshed. So that's going to be a very important part of how we approach the zoning code as well. And then finally, we are living in kind of a situation where we are seeing increasing change happen from climate to development pressures to economic as well. So this is a fantastic opportunity to really look at how do you build a code that is adaptive to the future and really allows you to have the type of development you want today, but then also sets you up for the type of development you'll want in the future as well. Next one, please. And at this point, I'll turn it over to Gina to talk about the TOD and how we're approaching it.
Thank you. So why this TOD matters now, we're not creating a new vision. We're implementing the vision Irvington has already established for itself. Our goal is to build directly on the 2018 comprehensive plan and the facilities planning study, which is currently underway, to unlock development near transit for housing and mixed use development. The TOD is going to create a coordinated framework, so municipal decisions, waterfront activation, and private investment can all move together in the same direction in a coordinated fashion. Our goal is to balance growth with Irvington's existing historic character while delivering climate resilient, smart growth aligned development. Next slide. So as we see it, the keys to success for Irvington TOD, there are really 4 major keys. Delivering an adoption-ready TOD zoning code, not just a plan, but something the village can actually implement. We want to run a community-driven process that builds real consensus around growth, especially given Irvington's history with development discussions. We want to design a code that balances viewshed and height constraints with feasible, attractive buildings, so developers don't have to choose between kind of ugly boxes and no project at all. The third key to success is grounding everything in what the village has already done: the comprehensive plan, the facilities planning, and the existing historic district framework. So this isn't a reset, it's a continuation of what has already been happening. And the fourth key is providing a clear and defensible path to adoption, including seeker, county referral, and local approvals, so the project moves forward without delay. So we've done this before. We have several slides that we want to tell you about some other recent kind of applicable TOD and zoning initiatives. First is the Baldwin TOD and zoning and seeker. This is a TOD overlay zoning district. Baldwin is in the town of Hempstead on Long Island. It's adjacent to the LIRR corridor. We paired this TOD zoning with seeker compliance and design guidelines to preserve the existing character that Baldwin wanted to keep and enhance. It is similar to Irvington in some ways. They had a traditional Euclidean zoning in place. The TOD overlay district incentivized mixed-use development and affordable housing, which is what their goals were, while preserving their existing neighborhood character. Next slide. The downtown transit-oriented arts district is in the city of Mount Vernon. This is about a 2 square block area. This is a form-based code that we developed right through to approval. We also included the site-specific approvals for the first phase of development within the TOD. This shows that we don't just write zoning, we understand how it performs. And throughout the process of developing the TOD, in this case, form-based code, we were looking at the ultimate kind of seeker outcomes and what that first phase of development and future phases would look like. This helps us to create a more implementable code right up front. So DRI and New York Forward, which you may be familiar with, the New York State Empire State Development has the DRI program and New York Forward program, which VHB is a lead consultant working on DRI and New York Forward across multiple communities, where we've helped municipalities translate planning into funded and implementable projects. We've developed strategic investment plans in these communities, and throughout Westchester, these communities have included City of New Rochelle, Ossining, Sleepy Hollow, and the image that we're looking at here is Dobbs Ferry. We've also worked on throughout, other areas outside of Westchester County as well, across the river. Ultimately, the strategic investment plan, which is developed very quickly under an aggressive time frame, works closely with a local planning committee, and there's a lot of public engagement to create a downtown vision, goals and strategies, and ultimately a portfolio of projects recommended for funding. I'm going to hand it over to Kathy.
Thanks, Gina. So this is Resilient Edgemere. Edgemere is a town in Rockaway, Queens. I worked on this project with Andrew and Allison on multiple tasks for the New York City Department of Housing Preservation and Development. Edgemere was devastated by Sandy, and it was flooded and the power went out for weeks. So after that, HPD asked us to rezone the area, make it more resilient. And you can see at the bottom of the screen, we rezoned several empty sites owned by the city that was close to a subway station so that we could build a slightly higher, denser community by the railway station. And by the bay, which is prone to more flooding, we downzone that area so that there would be more open areas to absorb the water and also to create different housing typology so that developers and homeowners can quickly rebuild. So we did the rezoning and we did prototypes of the housing that they can build there. Along with that, we also overlaid an energy grid with solar panels and battery storage units so that it would protect the community in the future of future outages. So like Irvington, Edgemere is a finely grained community with different types of housing. And they are on the waterfront and they do have a lot of resilient needs. So next. Another example I want to share is a small scale community in Borough Park, Brooklyn. This is a very extremely challenging site. It looks great here, but the buildings that we built, the massing that we built was built over a rail line, a freight rail line. So it was complicated in the sense that we had to work with state, federal, and city agencies to get approvals and to coordinate with them to make sure that the rail line underneath is still in operation and to create a community above that is in context with the rest of the neighborhood. So we built or we designed 4 to 6 story housing for the community there. And it's again by a subway station. And the tall building that you see on the left side is a commercial building that offsets the rest of the housing from the subway station. So it allowed us to also build green areas and open spaces and pedestrian connections to make it walkable within the community. So I share these two examples in Brooklyn and Queens because it's similar to Irvington in that the sense that we designed through form, the context of design-driven, context-driven design. And it's based on the character of the place, not just, plopping in a building. So we do take extra care with the codes that we work with VHB to design different forms to create within the context of the neighborhood that we build. So in all the projects that we work on, we try to harmonize the historic fabric, the cultural significance, and the physical context with contemporary design and living in the 21st century so that we can straddle between the two. So I'm going to pass it to Neil, and he has a last example to share.
Great, thank you, Kathy. Next slide, please. Yep. So as I mentioned, and as many of you know, BBB is currently leading the facilities master planning process in Irvington. This has been ongoing for about six months or so now. We are working with VHB, so this is another example of a BBB-VHB collaboration, successful collaboration, and we're really excited to continue that collaboration on this project and with Studio V as well. We are working with the Irvington Facilities Steering Committee on a comprehensive and strategic long-term plan for all of the village facilities, really with a important focus on those that most urgently need modernization, like the fire department, police department, Department of Public Works, but also looking at others like IVAC, Recreation and Park, and Village Admin, and others. And our approach to this project really is that community engagement is the crucial element here to build consensus and understanding and dialogue throughout the Irvington community towards a successful outcome for this project so that people are really able to work together to understand the challenges and opportunities to come up with this long-term facilities plan. We've had great participation from the community, from the departments, from stakeholders, and we were really excited to have just a really engaging and dynamic workshop on April 30th. I hope some of you were there, where we were really debating and talking about all these issues together as a community. And I just think it was a great example of the community working together on a complex project like this. And we hope that spirit will continue on the TOD plan. And if you go to the next slide, I just wanted to mention that the facilities plan and the TOD plan are really closely connected. You heard Gina mention how both of these are really implementing elements of the Irvington Comprehensive Plan. The Comprehensive Plan really it described how these things are all interconnected as a matter of strategic thinking about the village as a whole and how it functions and how it can be transformed. For one thing, we know all of the sites for the TOD plan really well as a result of the work on the facilities plan. We appreciate that the facilities plan, by hopefully finding a relocation for DPW, is going to unlock one of the linchpin sites that will make the TOD plan successful. So they're really connected in that way. That will unlock the value and revenue potential for that site, as well as the opportunity to create a sense of community and mixed use by near transit and near the waterfront. And then, as Andrew mentioned, for the facilities plan, it's really important for us to think about how the facilities really contribute to the historic character of downtown Irvington, of Main Street, and of the historic district. And with the TOD plan, we'll also be thinking of those same issues about how new development is compatible with the context, as Kathy was mentioning just now. And then the last point of connection between these two projects is really to try to establish some alignment and continuity in the community engagement process so that the Irvington community and stakeholders really understand how the plans are building on each other and connected to each other. And there's not confusion or risk of confusion about, which plan we're meeting about and why, but really, that this is sort of adding up to a greater whole. So we think it's beneficial to have this overlapping of the two teams for the two projects so that we can really, support that coordination.
And we'll pass it to Gina to talk about how we'll approach the.
Thanks. So our recommended code framework for Irvington is essentially, just to put it right out there, we're recommending a hybrid zoning code that is both flexible and predictable. We start by establishing a mixed-use TOD district that allows residential, retail, and waterfront uses in the village areas where the village actually wants to see growth happen. From there, we focus heavily on form, height, massing, step backs, and frontage so that new development fits within Irvington's historic district and neighborhood character. We want to rethink parking to reflect the reality of a transit-oriented location and reduce minimums, encourage shared parking where it's appropriate, and support structured solutions, again, where it's appropriate. We also want to build resiliency into the zoning code, including flood responsive design and green infrastructure. And we want to align the code. This is very important for adoption and for the long term. We want to align the zoning with the village's approval process so that boards and applicants have a clear, predictable path from concept through to approval. So seeker and smart growth. We want something that is right-sized and defensible. The seeker process, the environmental review process, needs to be done at the right scale. It has to be planning level and not site-specific. It has to be both realistic, with realistic build-out scenarios under the TOD zoning. We need to look at what could actually happen so we can evaluate potential impacts like traffic, infrastructure, neighborhood character, in a meaningful way. A key part of our approach is using the zoning itself as mitigation. So things like height transitions, parking strategies, multimodal access, and flood resilient design aren't afterthoughts. They are built directly into the code to avoid or minimize impacts before development actually happens. At the same time, we align this with the smart growth framework required by Department of State, creating a clear, defensible record that supports zoning adoption. And ultimately, the result is a process that is built, it's both right-sized and defensible through thorough enough to withstand scrutiny, but not overcomplicated in a way that slows down adoption.
So after Gina drafts the code and zoning, that's where we take over and we work with them to come up with different forms and different options to use the code and put that out in terms of site plans, diagrams, elevations, and sections so that you can understand and see how the code takes shape. And we'll work with the committee as well as the public and take those drawings out to the public so that they can give their input. So in the same vein, we would work on developing the communication participation plan, community participation plan, excuse me. And all of us on the team has worked either to organize or to lead these community meetings. So we are familiar with that. And we're excited to share what we have developed or will develop with the community and the stakeholders. And we'll focus on reaching out to underrepresented populations, such as either senior people, younger people, minorities, or people who work in the community so that they can give their input and their voices. And we hope to use multiple media channels to do the outreach, putting the information on your website, posting posters on train station, public housing, public places such as the library, schools, and nearby businesses so that we can get all the different people involved with the community meetings. So with that, I'll.
So in order to really move this forward, a big part of what we'll do is also leverage technology as well, really help with each stage of the project. So that can start with neighborhood analysis. We'll use a combination of GIS technologies to really do a full analysis of demographic trends, but then also understanding how that relates back to your existing zoning code and development potential. But we'll also be doing a sizable amount of 3D analysis too for different types of building forms that could happen as we look at different code options too. And that'll really help us understand how to build forms that do not necessarily conflict with things like view sheds or existing neighborhood conditions as well. And what this will allow us to also do is really come up with different development scenarios and effectively assess them so that we can understand what potential addition of, let's say, dwelling units or building height or overall program square footage could mean for the waterfront and the community as well. And then on top of that, we can take these types of 3D forms and then turn them into a variety of different visualizations that can be used to enrich the community engagement process as well. Next one, please. And we anticipate being able to get through this project in 12 months. We have it broken up into 3 phases. First, starting off, our first phase will really be one, establishing a rapport with the committee and the village itself, so that is establishing the community participation plan, but then also setting up regular meetings with the advisory committee. We will also set up public workshops too that will help us really get to understand what is happening, one on the within the TOD district, but then also understand how that links back to the overall village context. And at the same time, we'll be doing a lot of the analysis that will build into the local regulations assessment report, which will kind of be the bedrock for being able to build out the local regulations and zoning code that will come from that. When we get to phase 3, that will really be taking that draft code, but then starting to get feedback from our public workshops, but then also starting to get it through the actual approvals process too. So starting to get it through the seeker process, and then eventually getting it into both local and county review as well, leading all the way to that last public hearing and local adoption. And to,
Sorry, can I just a question there?
yeah,
So the 12-month process includes through adoption.
yes, of course. Yeah. So within 12 months, we aim to have a fully adopted zoning code. So yeah, just to refresh, you've seen in this presentation that we've, again, working with us. You have already experienced working with us through the various projects you've done for the village. Again, we understand what smart growth is and how we can really turn that into actionable zoning code that can get adopted. And we understand how to really navigate through the regulatory process as well. At this stage, I can open it for Q&A.
Another question.
Yeah.
What, can you just sort of go through what is considered the TOD in Irvington? Sort of what areas covered?
Yeah, actually, if you can go back to one of Neil's slides, that's a kind of a nice diagram. Okay, right, this one. So you can see with kind of that blue box around the waterfront, that's the TOD study area. So it's as of now, it's pretty much everything except for the Cosmopolitan building. One thing that has been communicated to us though is like we may want to talk about the option of adding in the Cosmopolitan building into the study area, but we can talk about that in our next meeting.
And it doesn't include the other side of the train tracks.
No, but what's
I'm
actually, yeah.
I'm just clarifying that for the public.
Oh, of course.
People know that, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's not to say like in the future, if you want to think about expanding the TOD district at a later time, you could include the other side as well, but not for this immediate study.
Any other?
Thank you for giving us some case studies and examples. In your previous work in establishing the zones, what were the biggest challenges that you faced? I mean, you've talked about community engagement, you've talked about overcoming code obstacles, things like that.
Mhm.
Were there other things that came up during the process that we should know about ahead of time?
I can pass that to Gina, who's done more of the zoning related work.
Sure. Well, I would say in Baldwin, for example, where we were developing a zoning code, it was an overlay district. It was not a form-based code, but we were doing seeker at the same time. I think working with the town to structure something that easily and intuitively be approved, go through the application process and the approvals process, educating the town on how to read the code, how to kind of do site plan review based on the new code, all of that, I think, was particularly challenging, simply because the town of Hempstead is a kind of large and somewhat complicated, structured town with a lot of boards involved in the permit and approval process. As another example, in the city of Mount Vernon, where we did a form-based code, there were a lot of changes. We started with a prior mayor, and that kind of changed a few times throughout the process. We also had established a geographic area for the form-based code, and we were asked to expand it. We were asked by the city to expand it, and we did as requested. So that was a little bit challenging. We had to backtrack and expand where we had already gone down a certain path. We had a larger geographic area to cover than was originally proposed. So those are some of the challenges. Public engagement really hasn't been. We do a lot of public engagement for a lot of different projects, New York Forward and DRI specifically, which are very public engagement centric, if you will. So the public engagement isn't really that much of a challenge. It's usually something structural or political that's happening while we're going through the process. Those can be challenging, but we kind of roll with it when we need to.
Great, thank you.
What kind of public engagement events do you sort of see happening for this project?
I can pass that to Kathy.
I think that we'll work with the model that BBB has done with the facilities planning, where I think that we would come up with some preliminary ideas, but very preliminary, and just get input before we draft anything and speak to the community. We would have it here in person. We would come up, have posters put up, come up with ideas, and have the community write ideas of things that they want, don't want within the TOD area, and just compile all that information and go through that and discuss it internally to see how we would build around that.
This is probably on the timeline, but I guess how soon should people start looking out for, events to participate in?
I think if we go to the timeline, we have it drafted where we would have interviews in the second and fourth month.
Mhm.
And we would have public workshops on the third, fourth, sixth, and seventh months. And those public workshops are probably more in depth, where we would have more options to show after the initial interviews with the community and stakeholders. So it could be multiple ways also, where we could have surveys sent out to get initial input, and then using that to go through the community meetings, where we would have material here so that people can look at visuals, read some narrative, and give input from there as well.
I'll add one thing, but one advantage of working with our team, though, is that we can very easily coordinate with the engagement that's happening with the facilities master plan at the same time. I ran into a similar problem when I was working with the Village of Sleepy Hall and their climate action plan, where they had multiple high-profile projects happening at the same time. So we understand what participation fatigue looks like from the community as well. So we'll be sensitive to that to make sure that we are really engaging people in a way at the right time.
From a timing perspective, the kickoff meeting, this is the kickoff.
No,
Before.
no, this is the second interview for us. So we'll have like a real kickoff meeting once we sign the
Okay.
contract. Yeah.
Okay, I see. Oh, I see. You're one of the presenters.
Yeah, this is what M1 is like once the contract is started.
Okay,
it's
that's it.
signed.
I mean, my concern is the summer, right? I think
Yeah.
there's low participation. in the
So that's why, we can kind of modify this.
Mhm.
When we built that, we didn't know exactly what month
Yeah.
this would start.
Okay.
And if I could just add to that, I think that there's a great opportunity here to have clear and consistent messaging across for the community engagement flowing from the facilities plan to the TOD plan. And I think to the point about the summer, to kind of, go into the summer with events around the facilities plan and then come back from the summer with events kicking off the TOD plan. There's a nice logic to that.
So you showed a lot of images of renderings, really beautiful. Do you have, you saw these to completion, I think, or some of them to completion? These projects were completed.
Yeah.
Do you have like images of like the actual communities and what they look like? I'd be interested to see in the future, like if you could show them.
Yeah, I believe we can. Kathy. Yeah, we can circle back with
Just
that.
to see what the design work looks like.
May I answer that?
Oh, sure.
Design of what we propose does not necessarily represent what we propose because the developers can also hire their own architects to design their own. It's the massing and the density that we put together for the community. Okay, kind of like the framework around it. And then they would take the framework and they would build within that framework of what we impose for the site.
But correct me if I'm wrong, the concept of being a hybrid with a form-based code would dictate certain forms
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
that, while not being what an architect might come up with, would reflect the community values. And you would be developing that.
Right.
And then their architect would have to follow that form-based code or request a variance or something else, which hopefully they don't need to do because you've done such a good job.
I guess I think what you're asking is, it would be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Sort of what you produce and then what gets built after, right? The code, because you're up to the code, and then what happens later, you know?
That would be
in
interesting.
those
And we can take it
communities.
as
Yeah.
that spirit that we know that it is exactly.
Of course.
as you hope it is. I mean, you can maybe have both of the rendering and like what happens. Sure.
Any other questions?
Charles, you want to just be clear where we are in the process?
Sure.
And the
with
next
these
steps.
folks
So
And next steps.
as was just indicated, we haven't entered into any contract with anyone at this point. This is I like the word interview. In a sense, it is that, but we've already checked references for this firm, gotten very good feedback. So we felt comfortable bringing them to the board for a presentation. Ultimately, the board would have to vote on the contract to proceed past this point. And then we would schedule a kickoff after the contract is fully executed. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you very much.
And we look forward to hopefully working with you guys.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
No, then I only need one.
Leave room up here if you want to.
Okay.
No, being your face, please.
Thank you.
Okay. So announcements, the Irvington School Budget Vote and Board of Education trustee election is tomorrow, Tuesday, May 19th at 7 AM to 9 PM. I believe that's in the Main Street gym, right next door to the Main Street gym. Also, Memorial Day ceremony will be held Monday, May 25th at 10 AM at the Main Street Memorials. There will be a parade, a short parade from ICC Immaculate Conception Church. The lineup is at 9:30. The parade will proceed to the Main Street Memorials and begin at 9:40. That part will begin at 9:45. The parade itself, and then the ceremony begins at 10. Checks over 25. Just one check over 25. JC Land and Site Development Inc. It's for the Matheson Park Stage retainage. It's coming from the capital fund. It's for $44,665.32. I want to thank our mayor for the day, Ethan Eidenberg, for joining us. He has to go to school tomorrow. A small little. Thank you, Ethan.
Once you're on our field, you can.
Through that.
Kill myself over here on this platform. Okay. So next is correspondence. All of the correspondence, I want to assure everyone that we received a lot of correspondence. All of this is regarding Half Moon North EV chargers. There was nothing.
There was one comment from former trustee Bard in reference to Pride.
Oh, correct, that's
but
here.
the majority
For
pertains
that,
to EV
okay.
chargers.
I just want to assure everybody that everybody on this up here read every single letter. So thank you for your correspondence. We are gonna, we do not read it as it has been the practice since I became mayor. So we're gonna move to public comment. So we have, public comment is about anything. We have a public hearing coming up in a couple of minutes specifically about the EV charger installation. So if there's any public comment not about the public hearing, please feel free to come up to the mic. Nobody? Anybody online?
There are no hands up online.
So I'm going to ask for the consent agenda, if there were any questions about the consent agenda items? No? I'm going to. Please. I'm gonna make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So I'm gonna open the public hearing to discuss EV charger installation in the village of Irvington, so feel free. Before we get there, yes, okay, so we're gonna limit comments to 3 minutes. And then also Charles, Charles is gonna address.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I've appreciated the opportunity to speak to all of you, well, many of you. I spent some time down at Half Moon North last week. I also read the emails that came through, so it's really good to get feedback from people. A couple of things, as acknowledged in the FAQ, the village should have done a much more proactive job in communicating with people, not just about the concept of EVs and Half Moon in general, but providing more specific information for the public. It was information that wasn't shared very widely, and I think we're countering some of the aftershocks of that now. Similarly, the board wasn't apprised of specific locations or engineering sets or any of the things that they would need to have an informed decision. So that's something Obviously, we can't go back and change, but we've been trying to address that in a more proactive way moving forward. The FAQ document lays out a lot of information. I'm not going to say that I don't expect there are questions. I'll refer you to the FAQ because I think it's useful. I'll also try to answer as many as I can, trying not to obviously take away your time. Couple of realities that we have to confront. The purpose was to try to provide equitable access to EV chargers. It was identified that the Half Moon North was an area that would have a difficulty installing them in and of themselves without some kind of support. This support for this grant is a 50-50 grant from Con Edison covering an incentive, and then the County of Westchester providing the other 50%. There are rules, and just to step back a little bit, this grant has been going on for a while. It's been stopped and started a number of times due to issues with the contractors that the county used for it. But ultimately, this project for an EV to go somewhere, it has to be on a publicly owned piece of property. It cannot be in a privately owned lot or privately owned street parking. It's intended to be installed in bulk. So not just one charger with 2 ports, but multiple, because you operationalize savings when you bundle like that. So what are our options now? Our options are essentially to put them in where they were designed to go, which is across from the residential area at roughly 230 Half Moon North or South Buckout, excuse me, 230 Half Bucket, South Buckout, along that roadway. There'll be 3 chargers with 6 ports total going in there. That in essence is fully covered by these grants. There's an additional amount of money that the village committed to spending to step up the electrical coming off of that pole to allow for chargers to go in there. Another option we've talked a little bit about with the residents is to parse them up, move them around within the condo. You know, put 2 here, 2 at a block down the way. Reduce them. We've talked about all of that. There are costs associated with that. Any reduction is a reduction in the contribution by both Con Edison and the Westchester County. So there would be a gap that the village would have to make up. The application process for new sites to be approved, and by approved, these are approved by both the village government, county government, all the way up to the state government. That application is closed, so we cannot, in this grant round, move them or decide a new place for them to go. The other reality is that after this round is done, Con Edison is no longer supporting this program, so the 50% they're bringing to the table is gone. So understanding that there are costs to this, the concept of relocating them, moving them within this grant process means that the village will have to pay the full cost of change orders, re-engineering, and the like. So that's the second option. The last option is to not install them at all. We will owe a certain portion of money, which I can get into later after you all have had your time, to just abandon the project completely. We can hope that there's another grant out there that will cover it. It will likely not cover it at the same contribution level as this current grant is at 50-50. And we will have to figure out if it's worthwhile to pursue a grant like this again and to pay any outside funds that we would have to pay to be able to put this charger in. There were questions that were submitted about where else are they going, why in this residential area. They're going in O'Hara Nature Center. There are 2 additional going in the library to replace 1 existing and 1 new. We were going to put 8 in largely on Hudson train station, but that's not a feasible project. Field Point parking lot received 8 ports. Scenic Hudson Park got 8. And then, yeah, so then the other one would be Half Moon North. At one time, Half Moon South was also factored into this, but keeping in mind that half of these funds are paid for by Con Edison, they had a decision to make whether or not it made sense for them to go in places, and certain places were eliminated. There were some that were supposed to go on Main Street that were eliminated due to cost. So that's where they are. They are in largely commercial areas or parks, but it was the intent, I believe, to try to provide equitable access and remove barriers to purchasing or maintaining EVs in an area where historically there's not been that opportunity to have EV chargers, even if you wanted to. So with that, I'll conclude.
Okay.
It's okay.
I probably don't need this anyway, but it's too tall for me. So my name is Kay O'Keefe, and I have lived at Half Moon North for 24 years. While I start, Sherry is ceding her 3 minutes to me, so you can time me for 6 minutes. I am most troubled by the lack of information from the village regarding the.
I'm sorry, Kay, I don't want to interrupt you. Can you please keep it to 3 minutes? I mean.
No, she's
okay.
ceding her 3 minutes
Okay,
to me.
so,
That
okay.
is allowed.
Okay, it's.
It is allowed.
It's
okay?
actually, I'm sorry.
Okay, so can I continue?
It is not allowed necessarily. We would have to, trust me, for open meetings law, we have to give everyone the same amount of time that we have to do. I want to do this in a good spirit. We are trying to listen to you all. We have been listening, so say it, but can we all just remain respectful?
Yes, but not if, so Sherry, when I finish, will you read the rest?
It's just read it. Go ahead. Just go ahead and read. Go ahead.
I was going by previous board meetings when seating minutes was allowed. So that's why this was
Understood.
planned.
Understood.
So you can time me
That's-
as of now, please. I am most troubled by the lack of information from the village regarding the planned installation of 3 dual port EV charging stations, 6 EV preferred parking spaces, and a large electrical panel box without any notification or input from the residents of Half Moon North. It doesn't make any difference that you're giving us this information now when they already came and started painting and marking where they're going to install the charges. I am on the village email list and I get notices about hydrant flushing, water main breaks, road work, anything that will be disruptive to residents, I get emails about. Yet, Half Moon North received no notification about this. One day, painting appeared on our lawn, and that's how we found out all about it. A letter was sent to Half Moon North residents only after another resident and I came before the board on May 4th and expressed our concerns and asked the board to please pause the project. The mayor said no, it would not be paused. We were advised at that time that this project had started 3 or more years ago before this administration was in office. The mayor served 2 previous terms before being elected. Josie and Ken Kleiman served 2 terms or 1 term each. Whatever, you served terms before this and you were in office. So I don't understand how you didn't know. The current administration cannot place blame on past administrations for what is happening now. You are all in office now, and it is your responsibility now. Since receiving the notice, many Half Moon North residents have raised concerns about this plan. I do not object to EV chargers in general. I object to the concentrating 3 dual port EV charging stations, 6 EV charging spaces, and a large electrical panel in a densely populated residential area directly along a busy pedestrian pathway. Young children, seniors, and people with respiratory conditions are especially vulnerable to poor air quality. Over the weekend, the AQI was already in the unhealthy for sensitive group range at 101 Saturday, 105 yesterday, and today. My breathing is already affected. I'm short of breath simply by talking to you because of the air quality. Trenching and digging in front of our homes will add dust and particulate matter to air that is already difficult for some reason residents to breathe. The lawn trenching can negatively impact respiratory health through the inhalation of airborne dust, soil-borne pathogens, and chemical fumes. Therefore, the air quality in our neighborhood will be worse than the rest of Irvington because of this trenching. If you're interested, I can send you documentation from the EPA and pulmonologists to support this. This is not an abstract concern for me. Last year, I was hospitalized twice for COPD exacerbations related directly to poor air quality. I became debilitated and oxygen dependent. Only recently have been able to go without oxygen. The proposed trenching and digging in front of my apartment will create dust and particulate matter that is likely to put me in the hospital again and is also unhealthy for children, especially those with asthma living in Half Moon North and Half Moon South. This is the only residential area that's selected for EV chargers. All of the other proposed locations are in parking lots. That distinction should have triggered a more careful process from the start, including meaningful notice, resident input, and a full review of the health, environmental, pedestrian parking, and quality of life impacts before any work was done. I am asking the board to take these health impacts seriously before allowing this work to proceed as planned. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just going to address one comment. In the last meeting, I did not say, no, we wouldn't pause it. What I said was that there was not work that was going to be happening in Half Moon. There was no work that was happening. So that's actually what I said. So that's, anybody have a comment on anything else?
People can view the video and see it.
They can view the video.
You can view the video and see it.
I think that's understood. Thank you. Next person, yes.
Nice to see you all here. Everyone else here, no matter what viewpoint we have, really feel happy and proud to be part of this community because of this experience. So I'm going to be brief, 3 minutes. Information about installing the 6-car EV stations on South Buckout Street has evolved since I last wrote you 2 letters. The arborist report is sobering. The root system of the 2 magnificent trees cannot be protected. The trenches could and likely will permanently injure them. And I do not trust Con Ed to, and I've considered this, experimenting when they trench. Had the street site been fully studied before the village signed off on the locations 9 months ago, it would have informed the grantors to look for a different location. The trees reduce our energy bills. They are part of Irvington's green strategy. And my husband and I support an EV station, but not at this locale for a variety of other important reasons too. As for village communication, I think to really get our attention, it just reminds me of the work that's going on the Hudson line. The trains are going boop, boop, even when everyone is done or there's no infrastructure issue, they are tooting their horns because something is happening. So I think you need to have tooted your horn a lot louder to get our attention. And I would suggest maybe having one of those signs like they do in other villages where this site is an issue before the board and they give a number about it. and involve the residents in the process early. And as it is common in Irvington, we have so many smart villagers here who live on this street, as you will hear from other speakers on both sides of the issue. So involve us. I'm ready to work on EV grant too. And yes, we know the odds, but let's try to get it right. This grant project for South Buckout Street was and is flawed, and it should be withdrawn. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Kathy Sears. Kathy Sears.
Oh, I forgot.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just wanted to give you a written.
If that helps. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Sonia Lisan. I am a resident speaking regarding the South Buckout EV charging installation. I recognize the village's sustainability objectives and the broader environmental goals associated with EV infrastructure. However, mature trees are critical environmental assets that provide shade, stormwater benefits, and meaningful heat protection for nearby residents. I also know, for the record, that the current design appears to have been approved before nearby residents were provided meaningful notice or an opportunity to input, and prior to completion of a site-specific arborist evaluation or traffic and circulation study for this location. In light of the village's tree protection requirements and the acknowledged critical root zone impacts, those reviews appear fundamental to an informed approval process. The arborist reports confirms that the pin oak trees are currently healthy, but that trenching occurs within the critical root zone. It also acknowledges that this disturbance may result in long-term decline and structural instability, even with mitigation measures. Accordingly, I request enforceable construction requirements, not advisory language, including non-mechanical excavation where feasible, minimization of root severance, qualified arborist oversight during construction, and post-construction monitoring and mitigation. These safeguards are important to reduce the future risk to both the trees and the adjacent structures. I also request all enforceable mitigation measures and construction conditions be made public available prior to commencement of construction. Finally, I respectfully submit that the long-term financial implications of potential damage to the mature trees, including future monitoring, mitigation, health decline, or replacement costs, remain unquantified. The potential liabilities should be weighed alongside the estimated 70,000 relocation change order when evaluating the most fiscally prudent path forward. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Super quick, I promise.
3 whole minutes.
You're welcome.
Hi, my name is Kevin O'Halloran, resident of Buckout for the past 2.5 years. I think a lot of what I want to say really, in addition to this, is just a lot of it was in the petition that went out there. So I'm assuming that you all had a chance to read the petition. And as the petition said, we're not against EVs. It's just the way it was rolled out with the lack of communication to us, and folks just showed up one day. I honestly haven't spoken to any resident on South Buckout that is against EVs. It's just that the 6 of them in the one location and the lack of communication is really causing a lot of passion, if you will, for the residents there. But with that said, my wife and I are directly affected residents because our windows face the approved installation area. We do support EV infrastructure generally, but have concerns about the siting this installation immediately adjacent to the mature trees and residential buildings. The arborist report acknowledges possible delayed decline and structural instability, even with mitigation measures in place. We also understand that relocation to other village-approved sites may involve an estimated $70,000 change order. However, proceeding at this location may also carry long-term costs associated with specialized excavation, arborist oversight, monitoring, and potential remediation if tree decline occurs. When those factors are considered together, we respectfully ask the board to evaluate whether relocation may ultimately be the more prudent long-term option from both a fiscal and risk management perspective. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. I just want to clarify one point. Moving them would be $7,000, not having them at, right?
So $70,000 is an estimate. We asked for change orders to figure out how much it would exactly cost us to move the work and what there would be a decline in the the price contributed, because Con Edison may not allow us to do it. This is an approved project. That would be a new one. So we're still figuring that out. I mean, ironically, well, not ironic, but essentially, we don't even know where they would go. So it's hard to ask somebody where they would go. You know, you talk about, you know, fewer of them. That likely would trigger Con Ed saying we don't want to contribute to that, because they're doing this to make money and they're looking for bulk concentrations of charges.
And we understand that. I get it. There's budgets. That money could go to, savings of that could go to the town, whether it be the police department, the fire department. But at the end of the day, you know, when they did this poll, I believe in 2022, had I lived there at the time and they said, hey, we're bringing EV chargers to South Buckout, are you for it? I would have said, yeah. The way it was explained, it wouldn't all be lumped, and it was never communicated correctly as to where it was gonna go. And here we are today. So I understand Con Ed is picking up the grant, the 50% of this. But the fact that, you know, folks do not even have a true say in this as far as the location and et cetera, I think it could be a price to pay, because it's a serious concern for all the residents.
I just
Thank
want-
you for your.
Yeah,
Yep.
no, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that not having them there is 7,000. Because I want to make sure we
To-
understand those two numbers. Yeah.
If we eliminate the site entirely and do not try to put in anywhere else in Half Moon, that's $7,000 roughly. I mean, they have to calculate at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Roughly what it will cost to the village. Change orders, it's
Is
gonna be a
unknown.
multitude of that.
Yeah, so that it's not the 70. I just wanted to clarify that we don't know.
That terminology I used in
Yeah.
speaking with them to put into context what the dollar figure represents to the village in a tight budget.
Yeah. Okay, next. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, sorry. Can you hear me? Is that
Yeah.
okay? All right, thank you. Thank you for listening to my statement today.
Could you tell us your name?
Oh,
please?
I'm so sorry. First time public speaker, trying to get my act together. My name is Carlin Bokikio, longtime resident. I moved here when I was 5 years old, did all of my schooling here, left and returned about 15 years ago, and currently live in Half Moon for the past 15 years. We've all acknowledged this, but it does seem that we may have missed an opportunity for shared engagement on an issue that will significantly impact a community of 119 homes and families. For those who may not be familiar with Half Moon North, I believe it's important to understand who we are. I've been a resident of this community for over 15 years, and during that time, I've watched it evolve, most notably through the arrival of first-time homeowners, young families and single residents, people like myself, and many of my friends. Our cooperative community represents the very best of what a community can be.
deep connections, mutual support, and shared responsibility. It thrives because of the spaces where we naturally gather, where diverse perspectives are respected, and where neighbors genuinely look out for one another during both ordinary moments and difficult times. The past 2 weeks have been one of those difficult times, yet it has also been extraordinary to see people come together. Neighbors I have known for years and others I have only recently met, but now call friends. In considering the proposed EV charging station installation, I cannot help but feel that if there had been a deeper understanding of who we are as a community, the situation and the village's missed opportunity to truly uphold the values of equity and access could have been avoided. Excluding residents from a meaningful conversation about a project that directly affects our shared space feels at best dismissive. When I describe my home to others, I often say that I live in a park, one that is largely private in structure, but completely communal in spirit. I have always believed we are better because of that spirit. So when I first learned of the EV charging station proposal, I was genuinely shocked and confused. It simply did not make sense to me. How could a pedestrian-centered residential community become the chosen location for this type of installation? If you were to visit our community, you would see a place filled with artists, educators, environmentalists, firefighters, craftsmen, laborers, professors, childcare workers, retail employees, small business owners, investors, and many others. But our community is more than the people who live here. Every day it is shared and enriched by joggers, cyclists, children, families with strollers, dog walkers, delivery workers, postal carriers, older residents sitting on benches, and neighbors walking from Main Street down through Half Moon and up Clinton and back to the aqueduct. In winter, children cut through the Dow's Lane to sled. In spring, families gather to play sports and enjoy the outdoors. This is our charm. This is our joy. This is our sense of safety and belonging. It is a community whose voice deserves to matter. When I reflect on how our neighbor was selected for this project, it seems that aside from the technicality of a sidewalk classified as village property, Half Moon North is fundamentally a residential pedestrian community. I believe there are other locations that would be far more appropriate. Community decisions should be guided first and foremost by the people who live there, not solely by budget constraints, convenience, or the location of an electric panel. Plans that were developed without meaningful residential input should not now become the responsibility of those who are excluded from the process. We love living at Half Moon North. We love this town. This is our home, just as your neighborhoods are your homes. We are no different. While this project may have been presented as something that benefits the broader community, for us it feels very different. Imagine if someone arrived to install EV charging stations on your front lawn and permitted cars to park directly in front of your home. That is what it feels like to me and to many of us. Had the residents of Half Moon North been viewed with the understanding and appreciation I have tried to share tonight, I do not believe we would be here today. And I respectfully request a change of location.
I just have a quick question. My name's Kathy Kaufman. I just have a quick follow-up question. I understood that they were going to be installed in already existing parking spaces. Is that not the case? That is.
Yes,
So cars are already parked in the places that. Okay.
that is correct.
Next. You can just.
I just have a question.
Wait, just before you ask a question, does anybody else want to make a statement?
My name is Christine Milano. I live in the South End. So we were not notified in the initial plans at all. The North got wind of it and the South got wind of it. But when I was commuting to work, you have people from the Irvington Railroad Station and the Arthur Railroad Station using that as a parking lot. And if I didn't get out of my car quick enough or in the car, I've been yelled at, given the finger, and people yelling at me that they have to get to their train. But now you want to take 6 spaces off of the street that's already crowded all the time anyway. We have alternate side of the street parking. And I know the EV station says EV preferred, but if the rest of us are being polite and stay out of it, it's not to stop other commuters from saying, oh, there's 6 easy spaces to get into right there. So that's my only thing.
Thank you. Next. Him and then.
My name is David Lasani. I live at 187 South Buckout. I really enjoy the support of these EV stations. Simply, I don't have a written speech. I'm talking from my heart. These EV stations are wrong for this community at that location. I live at 187. This is directly in my front yard. Right? You're going to dedicate 6 spaces to EV preferred. This is not going to end well. All right, I'm going to park my car in front of my house if I don't have another spot like I've been doing for always. I'm going to get notes on my car. I'm going to get anger. Okay, I'm going to, I'm supposed to move my car, make room for an EV charger. You're pitting the community against each other in a beautiful neighborhood, and it's just wrong. I have a couple of questions. What level are these chargers at?
They're level 2 chargers.
Level 2, okay. Do you know that this distribution box emits carbon monoxide? And it has to be zoned 25 to 30 feet away from any dwelling. I mean, you are covered because you're more than 150 feet away. But it's ironic that you're going to put a distribution box, because that's what this electrical panel is. It's pulling electricity out of the grid. It's distributing them to your 6 chargers. And it does emit carbon monoxide to the level that it is zoned not to be near a house. That's a concern, along with the trees and the trenching, the C-notching on the sidewalk, and the disruption of the community, and just the overall imbalance that will happen. You're literally putting everybody against each other. People that want them, people that don't want them. It's just not right. Please, eliminate this.
Thank you.
Robert Rice, I live at 189 South Buckout. I've lived there since 2001. I'm not in disagreement with anything that's been said tonight. I'm in favor of the environment, of the EV stations, but they don't belong in our neighborhood. If we were talking about providing energy for gasoline cars and you wanted to put the pumps for the gas in front of our homes, you wouldn't be allowed to do it. And putting the electricity in front of our homes without consulting us falls into the same category. A little disturbed to think that Con Edison could get this project approved, and they seem to be exempt from the rules about trees. I don't understand that. And if the bottom line is that this project can't be moved to a suitable location, then I think it should be dropped. And I have to say that with a heavy heart, because I think we need EV stations, just not in a residential neighborhood like ours, and not along the sidewalks. Now, when I picked the house or the apartment that I live in now, I picked the house that was on the highest level ground. And from the walkway right in front of the house, the land tips right down to the sidewalk. You are in your house, the only thing you can see on the street are the cars and EV stations if you put them there. They don't belong there. And the fact that we are talking about this after it's essentially been approved makes the situation even worse. The community should not have to live with a problem that was created by Con Edison and everyone else who approved this project without giving us any input. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ann Jaffe Holmes, 22 South Ferris Street. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Board, for convening this very important meeting. I feel like I am a witness to this is what democracy looks like. It's a little messy, a little hard, and there's a lot to consider, and it impacts people's lives. And what I came to say is not exactly what I'm going to say, because I've been listening to my neighbors, but I do believe that the village aimed at this project for the right reasons. Air quality, climate change. We all understand this is real, or I think most people do. And I moved to Irvington in 2008, and I've been living on 22 South Ferris since then. And we bought an EV, a Nissan Leaf in 2019, and I had to walk to the had to go to take the EV to the Honda service station, where they graciously allowed us to charge our vehicle and drop it off, and then walk all the way back to Irvington and walk to the Honda. You all know where it is, and then pick it up. Now we were so grateful when Irvington put in charging stations in the Aqueduct and Field Point and the library and Scenic Hudson. Really grateful. And I thought that what Larry was doing in trying to create EV charging for the people of Half Moon North and South, I assumed that that would be welcome, because it helps people of low income or fixed income to have charging stations for your EV. But obviously the people of North and South Half Moon are not feeling listened to, and I didn't know about the trees. Trees need to be considered, really critical. And so this convening of this meeting is really important. And I think we do have a lot to consider here in the village about this issue, the location of the charging stations. But I pray all of you, everyone in our village, to please not give some grace to why this project was conceived and how it was conceived. Because when you put in the applications for these grants, you know, you have to like get a lot in really fast, and it's difficult. It's difficult to do. So please just let it go that it was ill-intentioned and trying to shut everybody out. And please, let's just all listen to each other and come to the right place for the people of Half Moon, both North and South, and to the village and to the world. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that you convened this.
All this. How's it going? My name is Kamai. I am a resident of 191 South Buckout. I'm neighbors with Bob, Dave, and the fact that they're on the same side is hilarious. Anyways, I'll just say this very briefly, and I think that this is to the point. I work in banking, so I'm about the money. And I think that one of the things that we need to consider is that there's two options or three options that Charles has laid out. One is we go forward with it as is, and that saves the village a bunch of money. We get something for free, great. We don't go with it, costs $7,000, we remove it, but we run the risk that the village of Irvington as a whole doesn't win grants later from either the state or the county, may not be chosen for special projects by electrical companies or other companies that see this. There's a third option, which is paying for them to be moved somewhere. I know that you mentioned there may be some spots that were pre-allocated, whatever the case may be. But I think that it's important that the village recognize that your lack of, not you, this board, but the board, this administration, previous administrations, your lack of taking the community into account, your lack of clear communication, your lack of transparency has created this issue in the first place. And you shouldn't punish the residents of Half Moon North and South by putting it in. You shouldn't punish the village as a whole by missing out on this grant. What you should do is take your medicine, pay the difference, whatever it may be, to move it somewhere else so that our residents still have access to EV chargers, so that we still have the environmental benefits, but we don't manage to hurt the trees, impact parking, impact residents. I think that really should be taken into consideration when you think about who this really falls on. Yes, the taxpayers will bear that burden, I know that some of us are on fixed income or low income, but we really do live in a very well-off neighborhood in New York State. And so I think that we can eat any cost as a village to make this right. And I think that's the most that the board and the village and the administration could do, is to really truly make this right by moving them somewhere that works for everyone, that accepts the grant, that takes into consideration that we do want EV chargers, but not punish or pit us against one another. And that's all I've got to say.
I'll follow up to my husband, and I'll keep it brief because I know I overtalked last time. It was my first time participating in a local meeting. My husband and I moved here about 4 years ago, and in the past 3 years, I've had 2 children. So I'm on the Irvington Green Team mailing list. I want to get involved. I work at the UN. I love sustainability. I love sustainable development. But I really just want to go back to what I think everyone has echoed, is that the process. You know, I think what I only will read the last concluding paragraph of my letter, which everyone is welcome to read, is posted online, that at its best, Irvington can bring these priorities together: expanded EV access, protection of existing environmental assets, care for affected neighbors, and a public process that residents can trust. These goals do not need to compete. The trade-offs are clearly understood and thoughtfully weighed. They can reinforce one another and lead to a stronger outcome for the whole village. So thank you again for making the time to hear us. Thank you to Charles for bringing the arborist to the site. We really, I mean, that to me is probably the most disturbing part of it, is that if we had not brought the arborist, trenching would have happened across the critical root zones of these 2 mature trees. Con Ed really does not care, as we've all found out, you know, so this is really on us to put those safeguards into the process of our sustainability planning. So I'll leave it at that, and thank you again. I really appreciate your. Kathy Kaufman, 28 North Ecker. I refuse to say how many years. I'm all for like a lot. I don't care if you've been here 1 minute or 500 years, you have a voice. I just actually found this a really moving and interesting discussion. I just wanted to say a couple things. I hope it's true that it's, and I'd love to hear if it's possible that there's a third way where we can actually balance find some way to not make this huge sacrifice of our grant worthiness going forward, and still balance the needs of neighbors who obviously feel pretty put upon and not listened to, which I respect and understand. I have found in my endless frustration with government, my own government jobs, that it is like very often not a conspiracy and not disrespect. It's just like that systems are kludgy and difficult, and it's really, really hard to get in everyone's opinions and needs and feelings. So it's often, I think, not a conspiracy. I think in this case, I just want to say one thing, which is that I am very concerned about our future grant worthiness as a village. And I do hope there's a way forward that won't sacrifice our performance record, because it is it is really very difficult, and the environment is becoming increasingly competitive for grant applications, and it's going to be even harder going forward. And one of the things that philanthropists look at primarily is past performance. And so it would be really wonderful if we can find a middle way that would allow us to take advantage of this grant, demonstrate our performance and commitment, and still meet the needs of our neighbors. Thanks. I appreciate your work.
Somebody was gonna, who hasn't spoken, and then you can after if she's.
I'm Maureen Gomez. I won't say how long I've been here, about 50 years. My family has been residing in Irvington.
and I've been in South Buckeye now for about 15. I'm really very concerned about the communication plan, and I understand, Charles, that you made a comment before that you taken into consideration that the communication was poor, but I'd really like to see after this meeting the bullets of how you're going to improve that communication, of the outcome of what's going to happen, because I haven't, heard anything yet on how that communication plan is going to be disseminated to the community. So I'd like to understand that first. Second, I'm going to reiterate a few things that people have already said, is that Irvington's a designated Tree USA. So without having the arborists in, we appreciate that coming in and the late breaking, last week or so, and that report that came out, but the 80-year-old trees are truly going to be affected. And there's just another point. I live right up on the hill, and this is a main throughway to Dow's Lane School. Every day I see about 25 to 30 kids commute through this pathway and play on that hill. My window overlooks it. And without any consideration that this residential area is our home, where kids play and people walk, is really concerning. I hate to see that continue, because this area is so important to so many people, and they come from all over, because this area is flat. So it's not just our neighborhood, people come from all over, just because it's a very long walkway. It's a very good flat walk for many people. So I would, I'm for EV stations. I'm all in on expanding where they currently are. I'd like to see local businesses be expanded and, feed the local businesses, as opposed to, put the residents into disarray. I mean, where the library is located and all the other areas that are non-residential, it just seems more appropriate than putting it into a residential area where there are kids, people, and children daily playing in this area. So I'd like you to reconsider, and hopefully we come to a happy medium. I would like it to expand, but just not in our back.
I think somebody had a.
Yes, I have a question. I just request a clarification on that 70,000. On the 70,000 cost change order, my understanding, and Charles, I guess you can clarify. My understanding is that right now you have other approved location, that this particular grant that is that you have, you can use that grant to install these chargers in the other approved locations. I think there are 5 or 6 that are there. And that the cost of doing that will be $70,000. You have said, absolutely, we will not spread the EVs within the corridor of South Buckeye, but that you could install them in the other approved location because they fall within the grant. Is that correct?
Yes, we can try to do that. I don't know what that dollar figure will be. There will be a redesign cost that we will have to pay. We will have to pay change orders to add, if we were, let's say, in Scenic Hudson Park, there are 4 stations there. We'd have to trench to add the 4. If that panel box isn't strong enough to support another one, we'd have to pay to upgrade the panel box. So there is it possible? Yes. If we go back and say we want to do that, the county may say sure. Con Edison could say no.
Oh, I thought that it was, that was my misunderstanding. I thought that the fact that those were approved locations, they were already, it's a go. It's just a matter of cost.
It's not a given.
Oh.
The biggest challenge with any of this is any change order, any new location, any expansion is essentially 3 weeks worth of engineering. This all started on May 4th, and so I've been trying to expedite getting information. But there's going to be a cost to do that, even if we tack on one somewhere else.
Oh, we don't know what it is.
No, and we would want to be deliberate, right? So we, putting them in Scenic Hudson Park may not be the best place, because that park is locked at night. So if you go home from work, plug in your car, it's locked until the next morning.
The 6 could be distributed to other locations. So one in Scenic, one up in
Well,
Field.
yeah, but now you're taking the change order and the labor associated with it.
Okay.
It's the same thing as splitting it up between 3 areas, 6 areas, and
You want to come up to the, sorry. It's mostly for the people at
So people
home or
can
people
hear
who
it.
watch it after.
What's the timeline for the decision? because clearly you guys have come to a decision already. So we're asking you to reconsider that.
We have
not come to a decision at all.
So I think let's take just a quick step back. So this grant was like a 3-4 year process, right? And I think it's sort of, for a lot of reason, it started, it stopped, it started, it stopped, okay? And then I think it was sort of contemplated in certain areas, which then when they started doing the engineering, it worked, it didn't work. And so it kind of kept evolving, right? So this was, as we understood it and prior boards, was that they were wanted there at Half Moon, right? That was what was sort of from whenever this was initially started, was kind of the thinking. There was a survey you guys know about that seemed to indicate that there was a need and a desire to have them. So that's kind of where that started. What happens is, look, I think I tried to say this very clearly in my mayor's letter. Of course, the communication was not good, right? And of course, going forward, you learn from these things. And by the way, it's helpful because now we have all of you here and Charles we have a lot of emails and it's easier going forward to communicate with you guys, okay? So that's at least a good thing of this, right? You guys all got to hear about the TOD, when you got here, if you got here early enough. So what we are trying to do, right? And this is why we're trying to be transparent about cost, that the cost of moving something or adding more, we don't quite know, right? We'd have to sort of think this is why we're listening to you guys and thinking about what are the possibilities. And then if the answer is we're just not going to have them a Half Moon, we already know that cost, that cost, we know that is like $7,000 of whatever a little bit of work was done. We also know that we have a bunch of EV chargers going in places and that maybe adding more is going to be too costly to even look at, right? Scenic Hudson is a good example. We have a certain number at Scenic Hudson. It's closed. It's not optimal, right? Like if you're going to go charge your car, you don't want to go to the park in the winter and just sit around, right? The library is probably more appropriate for that. You probably want to go and sit in the library. That makes sense. So we might be.
It also seems so thoughtless that they use buck out when
Residents.
people
It
park
was
there
but it was
to
intended
get
for the
the,
residents.
get to the train.
Right.
So we already,
Right.
parking is, so if I get
yeah.
another ticket, I'm gonna
Yeah,
die.
but
It's such a tight area. I only moved there about 4 years ago, so I don't know about the EV survey. I'd be shocked if people were okay with placing six.
It was so large.
Maybe it was broad, but
specific.
It
But
was
do you
one
want
on one
EV?
side of the street and one on the other. They
So
weren't clumped
Okay.
together.
But
one
the
and
intent,
one.
the
Regardless,
intent
I
of the,
understand
correct,
what
the
you're
intent of the chargers though was for the residents, not for.
Limited to just the residents because you have the blue signs that say EV stations. If
Yeah.
people could
Because the
put through
co-op was gonna
broadband.
pay for it. The
Okay.
survey that she's referring to, the co-op was going to, and they decided not to. So it was gonna be one dual charger on one side and one dual charger on the other.
For residents, but how are these
For
only
residents
for
only.
residents?
So the two, to explain the grant it has to be in public places, right? It can't be, for example, it couldn't be in
Inside our
your
parking lot,
parking spot.
which would have made the most sense if it was
Correct.
for urban,
Right.
if it was for Half Moon residents, not putting it on the street, because let's be honest, first of all, EV cars are a fortune, but
It's gonna be
our,
open to the
our
public.
street is going to
Yeah.
basically attract a
So-
lot of people
okay.
who are gonna park their car and take the train, which makes
Right.
total
So
sense, and
yeah. So if that's happening currently, I think that I hear you, and I think maybe there's sets of facts that were not considered when the project was conceived, right?
I do grants
Yeah.
too, so like I
Yeah,
understand it, some of
exactly.
it is you just like putting things together.
Right, and you're trying to kind of meet a need. So I think what we're trying to talk about, right, and listening to everybody is, okay, we're hearing what you guys are saying. You don't want them in Half Moon, right? We hear you. I hear
As
you.
a parent.
Yes, exactly. That's a parent. So I think what we are doing is trying to listen to everybody and then we will be informing you guys of what the decision of the board is. We are taking a lot of information in.
What's your decision-making criteria and what's your timeline as far as making a decision and then sharing that with the community?
It will be, I think, in the short run because we would have to decide whether to proceed with work or not. So I would say it's in the relatively short, probably within days. Probably
And what's your criteria for making that decision? I mean, clearly you represent the entire
Yeah.
town, not just.
Yeah,
our
I mean, we
little-
would be thinking, we would be taking all of these factors into
But
consideration.
let's be honest, no
Yeah.
one from the rest of the town is really gonna
Yeah.
come and use those EV stations because everybody has
It'll
a
be on
charger
the
in their
map.
house. You
But
you
it'll
know,
be
it's
on the
mostly
map.
homes,
It'll be on the
so
map.
it's, that's why I'm asking, like, how are you going to decide how to make that decision? Is it going to be
Anybody else
based
wanna-
on money?
So-
Is it gonna be based on
Well,
feedback you've been given?
yeah,
Is it
so
gonna
our
be based-
role, I mean, so the first thing I just want to reiterate is that, you know, we wouldn't have called a public comment meeting if we'd already made a decision, because that
I
would
was
be.
under the impression that the decision was made, so that was why I
That,
asked.
yeah, I mean, that would be really useless and be a waste of all of our time,
I
right?
just
We
thought
wouldn't want
everybody
you
was
to
coming
come
here to
here.
complain. I wasn't gonna come, and then my
Yeah.
neighbor's like, you wanna?
Yeah.
I was like, listen, you
Well,
know.
we wouldn't want you to come here and speak and then say, okay, we made the decision already. That's not fair and that's not the way we govern. So what we want to do is take into consideration all of the comments that we've heard tonight, right? We have them on record. We have all the letters that were written. We need to then get the actual costs to consider what the options are, right? So we have 3 options laid out, but we need to know costs, right? There's a big difference between $10,000 to relocate and $100,000. Right.
But your other option is to say, thank you, but
That's right.
we're not interested.
That's right. But it would not be a wise choice to make
That's
that
a
decision
theoretical.
before
That's a
knowing
theoretical
what.
punishment. You don't know if that's gonna be the case. That's just, you believe that we won't be looked at in the future to give grants to.
No,
because
I
we're
wasn't
not-
referring to that actually. I was saying that we couldn't make a decision about whether to relocate or whether to abandon the project entirely without knowing costs, because
Right, I
part of
understand
our role is that we need to answer to our residents, but we also need to answer to our residents as taxpayers. So we need to be
But the third
financially
option is
responsible.
to not accept the grant.
That's right. Yeah. Is that a question or?
No, I was
Oh.
just trying to clarify, because
Yeah.
I know that people are concerned about if we do not accept the grant, that there's some sort of theoretical punishment that will be, you know, put upon us for the next 50 years. Yes and no, you know, we don't know what that's gonna be, that we won't be considered for grants going forward.
Right, we don't have that definitive information, but it's something that we take into consideration.
There's no way to know. I mean, no one has, you know, a crystal ball. You know, what I do know is the current grant composition with the 50-50 Con Ed to county, that is not gonna be around again. So we know that's not gonna happen. If another grant comes up, it looks like there's another grant in the queue. It's gonna be a similar type grant, has to be on public property, has to be in clusters of at a minimum 4 stations or 8.
But then maybe it's not for us.
Right.
Do you know what I
Well,
mean?
but I know, and then that will come up. We'll say, nah, that doesn't work. And then we can try to go for another one and another one. You don't know. Money in this area, though, is very, very limited. And a lot of even federal money flows through the county. There is a reality that we have to confront. That is, the county is going to look at everybody's applications and base it upon our ability to deliver an objective. I don't know what the county will say about that. I don't know if future boards will say, you know what, not again. Like, I have no idea. I can't weigh in on that. And I'm not on the board, so I don't know.
It's beginning to sound like the amount of money involved is more important than the feelings of the community.
No, no one's saying that.
No one's saying that.
That's
We're
what
just,
they
no, we're just trying to, we're just kind of having a
It's
conversation.
non-quantifiable,
Yeah.
and he doesn't even
I
know if
think-
it's
I
true.
think the
He's just
residents should
assuming
meet
or possibly.
Before a decision is made and decide what we are going to do in response to anything that we consider negative for.
Okay. Thank you.
So, I'm sorry, didn't say my name, it was Kathy Sears, and my family has lived at Half Moon South since July of 1999. The money, I had, in my second letter to you, I raised an issue that I was told that you had gone through your budget and found an anomaly in the water, a water bill. And you found out through speaking to the water department that we had been paying Ardsley Country Club's water bill. I don't know what percentage. Is that correct?
I think that is not for today. That is a much longer conversation that is.
In other words, this is tricky.
It's tricky and we have an issue of overhead. We're sort of working out what the path forward there is. It's not a simple answer.
Well,
No.
my suggestion
Yeah.
was, if that's true,
Yeah.
and however it gets worked out, Ardsley Country Club, I can't afford to join. I've been there, has been invited there where someone paid the tab, but they owe our village money. That's a big deal. So that was just my suggestion. However it works out, I feel like our village is owed money. And
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Any other comments?
Want to clarify one?
Just one, yeah, you have to come up to the mic because people,
I think it was around 2022, a flyer, a vote was put out about EV chargers. And I think everybody in this room, it was like,
can you just say your
Yeah, I'm
name?
sorry, my
Sorry,
name's
it's
David
because
Lasani.
people will watch this after.
I live at 187 Buckout. A vote was taken, a flyer was presented to us. And it stated, how would you feel about the opportunity of installing EV chargers in and about Half Moon Project? And all of us in this room said, wow, great. People who have EVs will have a place to plug in. People who don't have EVs will have the opportunity to buy one. This is great. So we all checked yes. Why not? And then all of a sudden, you guys come up with this plan, a public plan, to take away our parking, take away our serenity, to pit us against each other. It just makes no sense to me. So there was a vote and we all said yes. And now we're getting stabbed in the back for it.
We didn't all say yes.
Okay.
No, oh, I'm sorry.
The majority.
The majority.
I'm sorry, we have to really.
It seems like such a good idea.
I'm just gonna ask everyone if you have a comment to just please say it at the microphone and, and whoever hasn't spoken, please feel free to speak. Do we have any comments on that, by the way?
There are two hands up online.
Okay.
One. Okay. Michael Hanna, you may now speak.
Thank you. My name is Michael Hanna, and I live near the proposed site at Half Moon. I helped coordinate that 2022 survey that people are talking about, and so certainly could answer any questions related to it. A survey is definitely not a vote, but it's a opportunity to weigh in, and shareholders had a chance to, weigh in on other opportunities which they didn't support, but there was majority support for the idea of the co-op installing chargers with over 80%. There's a majority, and it went up to 80% if the plan addressed, questions and concerns. That specific plan had an opportunity to be funded because, similar to what you described with Con Ed, it was the opportunity for it to be paid by the installer, and then they make their money back by charging people to charge their vehicles. And similar to what we're facing here, the timing was missed and that opportunity went away, and the co-op hasn't indicated since then that it has any plans or opportunity or capability to do it. So I recognize that what the village has done is separate and a second opportunity. Our co-op community, we live in smaller homes. We use great environmental practices like food waste recycling and not putting pesticides in our lawn. And we own, on average, fewer cars. So, in many ways, we are, modeling sustainability. And so this conversation about EV chargers is a really important one. I want to thank the mayor and the trustees for your dedication to being thoughtful and transparent and responsive, and you're demonstrating that tonight. I attended a celebration for village volunteers last week, which was the first time in memory that, volunteers have been recognized, and that was really appreciated. I really appreciate the regular mayor's messages, and I hope everyone is signed up and reading those because you're giving really detailed updates about what's happening. And I know a number of the key village projects include a lot of public engagement. So I, like my neighbors, I'm appreciative that you paused this installation to take time to hear from us about our hopes and concerns. There were obviously some notifications about EV chargers to be installed on our street, but nothing specific. So certainly we would all have preferred and do prefer, and obviously hopefully we're all learning the lesson here of, the work that's happening on these larger initiatives the village have to soak down to all the other work that you do, and when people are affected, that they're part of the process and providing feedback and understanding the trade-offs. Also this shift, as others have noted, was an important change from prior installations in parking lots. Expectations were certainly different for curbside charging in a residential neighborhood and needed to be reconsidered. But I wanted to say that our community will benefit by shifting to EV. Put yourself in the position of purchasing your next car. Why would you consider buying an EV? Right now, as consumers, secondhand EV cars are competitively priced if you take a look. They cost less to maintain, less to charge, and they allow us to improve our local air by reducing exposure to carcinogens from those gas cars that are parked in front of our homes now. And in the larger scale, reduce the dependence on coal-powered energy because they are able to be, use renewable energy. Right now we're looking at a country that has gas prices skyrocketing because of, a war for oil. My co-op neighbors who can't simply install an EV charger in a home, like our, neighbors who have single family homes, this is our chance to have accessible charging. It may be fine for some of our younger neighbors to walk 15 minutes to the nearest village parking lot for their charged car, but it's not the same for other residents with mobility issues or, for example, younger kids to look after. It's also important to recognize convenience allows us to change habits and move the idea of purchasing a new car to the top of one's consideration. Currently, most of our residents own gas cars. I think that this could be an opportunity to shift the momentum. The worry that people from our area would use them, not from our area would use them, is unlikely because, again, it wouldn't be convenient to them. When we talk about the train station, there's chargers at the library already. Based on the FAQ and what's been said tonight, it sounds like there's declining funding for this type of installation. And I think there's valid concerns about how this will affect our ability to get future funding. I encourage our neighbors to advocate for the installation of EV chargers, but look for improvements to how they look, which is possible. And to consider, well, Charles, this is a question for you, and listening to your nuanced explanations. If we were to reduce from 6 to 4 and perhaps relocate one to the library, or some other site, might that meet Con Ed's desire to have a certain number of chargers in the community, but also reduce the impact and leave open some of those free taxpayer subsidized first come, first served parking spaces in front of people's homes?
I can answer that. So these are all estimates, obviously. If we reduce the ports at Half Moon from 6 to 4, which is 3 stations to 2, the cost to the village would be $9,764. To tag on to what Michael mentioned of taking the one remaining and putting it at the library or somewhere else, I don't know. We would have to pay for that to be designed, to be installed, to be, essentially work through and understanding that would be fully borne by the village. And so it's hard for me to know what that is.
Yeah, okay.
I'd like to comment on some of the.
So I'm still speaking, thank you. Using, there's an opportunity to use more subdued panel colors for the EV chargers. You have the opportunity to change the stencil. I mean, there's many ways in which this can be, there can be low cost mitigation to the look. And there's one other thing, and thank you for your patience. I've been, patiently listening for over an hour to folks, and I just have only a few more sentences. There's a lot of concern about particularly the stress caused by alternate side parking. So I really think one way to reduce stress is to at least trial reducing the amount of alternate side parking, which will leave many more spaces available for people. I agree that the location near the mature pin oaks is a concern. And so I would suggest that if the installation were to go forward, which I hope it will, to follow the recommendations of waiting till the fall when it's a less important period for the tree, and to follow the recommended arborist safeguards. I want to thank my neighbors and village board for considering these options, for considering the trade-offs, and to think about the long-term benefit of moving towards installation of EV chargers. I see that the village is voting tonight on a change order for the Nature Center EV charger installation. I hope Mayor Burgos and trustees that I can count on you to carefully assess the ability to mitigate this installation and to move forward with something that'll be a more meaningful, more impactful installation, because it'll be directly accessible to neighbors, but it'll be mainly used by neighbors. So I think these ideas of, folks coming from all over is not realistic, because as we've observed about the parking lot installations, it's really about convenience. And that's who's going to use it, the folks who live near it. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
If Michael's finished, sure about that.
Just come to
Clear
the,
up some misconceptions. Michael talked about an 80%.
I'm sorry, just remember, say your name again and then you can talk.
Again?
Just because it's for, it's for the.
Robert Rice, number 189 South Buckout.
Okay, thank you.
When the survey was done at the Half Moon North, we were under the impression that the charging stations would be in our garages and in the off-street parking. That is totally different than putting it in front of our homes. That's the first point. Second point, when he talked about the problems with gasoline versus electric, you want to go down and talk to your insurance agent about what it's going to cost you to insure your electric vehicle. Then you want to go down and talk to your tire dealer and ask them, how often are you going to be changing tires on those super heavy vehicles with their lithium-ion batteries? So I just want everybody to understand that what you heard tonight at the end here was not exactly correct.
Yeah. I just wanted to refocus us
Can
maybe.
you just say again?
Samantha, sorry. Samantha.
First and last name.
Savaries, 191 South Buckout. So I think I just want to return our focus perhaps to the trees, because the mature trees are our EV infrastructure too in Irvington. So I think all of these other concerns we have are very legitimate. I think the parking, I have an assigned parking space. As I wrote in my letter, I come home at night, I have a spot with my 1 and 3-year-old, but I have many neighbors who don't have, necessarily that certainty, including elderly. So if we're considering a holistic picture of access and mobility, I do think there has to be some mitigation for those neighbors who, it's easy for us to say, oh, well, just park a block over and walk an extra block. But there are older neighbors that, that won't have the same impact for. And I think when we're thinking about the parking supply, we also have to imagine the aim of this project is increase the adoption of of electric vehicles, which is a great goal. But are we asking this short residential block of 7 spaces to absorb that increasing demand over time? Because originally it was supposed to be Half Moon South and Half Moon North were getting their own chargers. So if it's just this concentrated block, what does that look like for those residents over time, including older residents and those people? So I just hope that those concerns can be heard with care too. It's not, I am really focused on the mitigation for the trenching around the trees, but the parking concerns I think are a big one for residents too.
Thank you.
We have some more hands up online. Charlotte Benz, you may now speak.
Hi, thank you. I'm sorry I'm not there. I did come originally, but there was no seating available, so I decided to zoom in. So first, I just want to thank the board very much for hosting this information gathering meeting, which is obviously totally called for right now so that you can make the best decision for the most people, which I know is what you want to do. I want to thank Ann Jackie Holmes and Michael Hanna for your beautiful shares, very thoughtful. As sustainability director for the village, I was with Larry when we got this opportunity, and it was very, very exciting. It was an unheard of kind of grant. The amount of financing was available. I don't think we'll ever see anything like it. And it met our goals to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, to make air cleaner, to increase equal opportunity access to chargers. It just seemed like nothing but wonderful. I have not been involved with, and it's not my purview to oversee building and implementation. But I know obviously that that part fell through a gap, between changing administration. And I definitely recognize that there was shock and a lot of concern from the residents. And I have total faith that the Board of Trustees completely cares about and is listening to all of these concerns and taking them 100% seriously. Please don't doubt that. That's very clear to me. I want to recognize the dedication of our hardworking trustees who easily work 20 hours a week, essentially for free. And I know how much you are juggling and how much you're learning and how much you care. And I just, every time I encounter, I've worked with municipalities across the state, and I just end up more and more humble and more grateful for civil servants and for your dedication. So I just really want to shout out to you guys. I'm so appreciative of how gracious you're being and how thoughtfully you're handling this, recognizing that there have been mistakes and there were gaps and that we need to remedy that now. And that you're trying to find the best possible way forward given all of this. What else did I want to say? That's really it. So yeah, obviously we don't want to destroy the trees. It's very clear that Con Edison doesn't care about the trees, and that's constantly something we're trying to manage. It's painful. You're right. We absolutely need the safeguards for that. And hopefully there is a middle path here where we can still offer some EV charging to the people who need it in your community without taking away this crucial space that obviously is a major issue for you guys. Everybody wants to address that properly. Please feel assured. And some of the language has been a little bit upsetting. I'm not going to lie, about backstabbing and stuff. That's just not what's happening here at all. Everybody is very caring in this situation, and I just want to express gratitude. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte. Anybody else online?
Michael Hanna, you may now speak.
Just a quick follow-up to the comments made. I hate to have to be a car salesman here, but you can look online and find EV cars with under 50,000 miles for $18,000 to $25,000, which is very competitive for cars these days. And certainly you can go look at the other questions that Robert raised. Similarly, I didn't say that, again, I was very clear that the survey, which I helped run, was not a vote, and it was about a specific project that did not come to fruition. That's actually the concern, that we're losing a second opportunity. Yes, a very different one, and one that needs mitigation, but please don't conflate, which is not what I was doing, something that happened in 2022 with what we're talking about now. So I just want to be clear, I'm very upfront. I've been spending, more than a decade participating in this community. I'm all about these kinds of opportunities for our community to speak together. And I'm really appreciative of the board for giving us this chance. And I hope you're hearing that, not that EV cars are bad, because you wouldn't be doing this project and these projects if you thought so, but that we need to mitigate for a change in how you've installed it from a parking lot to residential. And I think that's really important. And if you look at other communities, they're trying to do it as well, because it's about making it accessible to people. And we don't have those garages, as many pointed out. So this is the way to make it accessible for us. And I thank you for considering it.
Thank you. Anybody else online?
There are no more hands up online.
Okay, thank you.
Circle back, if you don't mind. My name is Carla Mokikio, 120 South Buckout Street. I just want to be sure that the tone that is left here is that this group of people were not appreciative of what is going on here today. I think that we did an excellent job of doing that, and I'm getting a sense that the few last speakers suggested that we weren't. I also take a little bit of of issue with the fact that people are speaking for me in terms of what I may want in terms of my own vehicles, whether or not I want EV chargers. There is no sweeping generalization that should be representative of all the people who have come up here individually to talk about what they desire and what they wish for. Additionally, everybody keeps saying that we need these, whereas I appreciate that. We also are not people who can't make decisions on our own. We appreciate the opportunity to have the help. We do have garages. There are opportunities for our co-op to have conversations about installing chargers in our own garages. I have a garage. I don't necessarily have a vehicle that is an EV charger because I may not believe that that's the right thing for me to do. So I just want to be sure that we're not making the statements that we think we're representing what everybody wants in their own individual lives and their communities. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, come on, Martin Kirkland. Sorry, just one last thing. I just want to make sure we don't get away from the money and the board. I think that's really, really important. We drive that home. There is money involved here. Yes, we're all taxpayers. We're all going to eat that cost. There are other options than just don't do it or do it. I feel like a lot of the conversation has been focusing on what the people of Half Moon North do want or don't want. And I think that there's a real opportunity for the board to step in and say, hey, you know, our bad. This was our mistake. We take ownership of this and we will find a way. Budget is tight, understand that. We will find a way in our budget, whether it's through just taking it out of the budget or I think she left, but sounds like Ardsley Country Club owes some money. To say, hey, you know, we'll take ownership of this mistake that the board, the administration of the village made, and try and communicate that to the rest of the taxpayers. Because again, you say you're focused on the cost of this, right? We need to think about the costs. There are real costs to not getting a grant. You could be talking tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars in the future. So $70,000 doesn't look that pretty, right? That's not that much in comparison. When you talk about the residents, if you do install it against our will or against the will of some of the people here, you could, in a few years, have to remove it. That could cost $70 or $80 or $100 or $150,000. So I really want to focus on the money here and understand, like, there is a real obligation on the board to take ownership of the mistakes that were made in communication, the mistakes that were made in transparency, the mistakes that were made in community outreach, in governance. So I think you guys you're the board here, and it's unfortunate for you, but you should really take ownership of that and think about the options that you have in front of you and weigh the true costs of doing it or not doing it and trying to really truly find a third option.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, good evening. Jorge Magallon, 286 Riverview. I really have one question or a couple of questions, I guess, surrounding the seeker analysis and how that involves the trees, I guess, that are really at risk here. And I believe that's going to be an issue later on too. I know nothing about seeker, but I would think that an environmental analysis would take into consideration the trees in the surrounding area. Apparently that's a flaw in that. And so, and I kind of, and my follow-up question, well, my follow-up observation is, how much did the board and the previous village administrator rely on kind of that seeker analysis? Thank you.
So I'm by no means an expert on seeker. My understanding is it went through a seeker review, all these sites did.
The county.
Sorry?
Is it the county then?
Yes, the county did it. But I don't believe they delved as deep as we would be doing here. It just doesn't look like they covered that element of it to any detail.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other comments? Okay. Thank you.
I'm going to close the public.
Yeah, I'm going to close the public hearing and we're going to move to the next resolutions. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah. Minutes.
It's so rushed. It's so rushed.
No, I gotta say, I've been waiting.
I'm sorry, excuse me, can you please, I'm sorry, we have to continue our meeting. We have to continue our meeting.
Let's just continue.
Okay, so. Wait until they close the doors. Okay, so.
Resolutions.
Resolutions. We still have a whole.
Are we at the beginning?
We still have 100 pages.
Page 3 of 170.
180, no way. Oh no, we did the red letter.
Okay, alrighty. Okay, so the next, Katie, you want to talk about this?
Sure. So this is a resolution we typically do every year. And this resolution actually flows into our next resolution as well. These are the unpaid water bills as they currently stand. So any unpaid water bills flow through to the next tax levy, so they get included on these people's tax bills.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to make a okay, I'm forgetting the words. A motion.
It's gonna be an interesting rest of the meeting.
Whew, I'm tired. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a motion to adopt the resolution, the authorization to include unpaid water rents and penalties in the 2027 annual tax levy. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Whereas certain customer accounts of Irvington Water Department currently have unpaid water rents and penalties, and whereas the village law, section 11-1118 provides for the inclusion of unpaid water rents and penalties in the annual tax levy, now therefore be it resolved that to authorize the village clerk treasurer to include the following unpaid water rents and penalties on the 2027 annual tax levy totaling $11,733.04. And there is a list of accounts. I don't think we have to read them. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
So the next resolution is approval of the tax.
Yeah, so the net tax levy amount on the tax warrant here is directly from the 26-27 adopted budget. So that's the tax amount. And then we're adding exemptions removed. So that's any taxes that it's typically new homeowners who the previous owner had an exemption. Once ownership changed, if they're no longer entitled to that exemption, we bill them prorated from the date that the exemption no longer applied. So the amount of the exemptions removed is the $6,216 plus the water arrears, which we just did the resolution for, which results in the total net collection warrant of $18,065,473.24.
I'm going make a motion for the approval of the 2026-27 tax warrant. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Resolved, Board of Trustees approves the 2026-27 tax warrant and authorize the mayor to execute said warrant and deliver same to the tax collector. Do I need to read this warrant? I don't think so. Okay. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
The next resolution is salary modifications. Okay. I have to read this, don't I?
No, you don't have to read the list.
I don't have to read the list, just, okay. So I'm gonna, it's like, oh my gosh, okay. Okay, so I am going to make a motion to make the salary modifications listed in the resolutions. Do I have a second?
Second.
Resolve to modify the annual salaries and hourly rates effective June 1st, 2026, as set forth in this resolution. All in favor? Volunteer appointments. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the budget. You want to talk about the budget committee? I'm so tired. Okay, so I think maybe I'll talk a little bit about the budget committee. Okay, so the board, we talked about establishing this budget committee. Charles and I met with, as you all know, we sort of put out a notice to the community, and we received 9 applications to serve on the committee. We chose 7 of the 9 members. The 2 people will be serving 3-year terms, 2 people will be serving 2-year terms, and 3 people will be serving 1-year terms. So that's really the other ones are Parks and Rec, a new person to Parks and Rec, and Charlotte Bennett. So any questions about the project committee? Because that's the only new thing. Okay.
How are we choosing a chair or?
No, they will
amongst
choose
them?
their own chair.
Okay.
Yeah, they will choose their own chair. Which would, I'm assuming, would be from the 3-year terms.
So they'll make a recommendation as a group as to who
Yes.
that chair is. Obviously, that's subject to board vote.
Yep. Yeah. So they're right, because we have to approve the appointment.
And are we appointing a liaison?
Are
A
we?
board liaison to the committee?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
And myself. So when I spoke to them, it will be the mayor and 1 more person.
Great.
Okay.
Congratulations. Another committee.
So I'm going to make a motion to accept the volunteer, to approve the volunteer appointments. Do I have a second? Resolve to appoint the following village board volunteer committee members to Recreation and Parks Advisory Committee, Ben Thompson with a term to expire December 2028. Further resolve to appoint the following ad hoc volunteer committee members to the Budget Committee, Smita Reddy, Susan Parrish, and Ilya Gofshin, all 3 terms to expire. Oh, sorry, wrong. Smita Reddy and Susan Parrish terms to expire December 2029. Ilya Gofshin and Justin Lukash with a term to expire December 2028. Christopher Lando, Michael Curran, and Sarah Rubinow with a term to expire December 2027. And to the Climate Smart Communities Task Force, Charlotte Binns, coordinator, December 2026. All in favor?
Aye.
Board of a contract for heavy equipment.
It's those guys, contractors, they're currently working with us. We put out a bid, they're a responsive bidder.
Okay. So I'm going to make a motion to approve the award of contract for use and operation of heavy equipment, number 2026-2023. Do I have a second? Whereas 1 bid was received for the contract 2026-2023 for the use of the use and operation of heavy equipment as follows. 2XPC Corp. DBA, those guys contracting, the total bid is $134.50. Whereas the village administrator reviewed the bid submitted and determined that it is responsive to the specifications, and resolved to award contract number 2026-2023 for the use and operation of heavy equipment in the amount of $134,850 to 2XPC Corporation DBA, those guys contracting as primary contractor, and to authorize the village administrator to execute said contract. All in favor?
Aye.
The next one is the approval of the farmer's market manager's contract. This is a continuing, right? This is just a continuation, the same contract.
It's the same vendor.
Yep, same vendor. Any questions? No? Okay. So I'm gonna make a motion for the approval of the farmer's market manager contract. Do I have a second?
Second.
Resolve to authorize the village administrator to execute an agreement with the Scout with Duralec to manage the farmer's market for the village of Irvington for an annual fee of $50,000 from June 1, 2026 to May 31st, 2027. All in favor? The next is, I'm gonna make a motion. Anyone have a question about the landscape maintenance? Okay. I'm gonna make a motion, I'm sorry, yeah, motion to approve the approval of the agreement, so tired, agreement for landscaping maintenance at the O'Hare Nature Center. Do I have a second? Resolve to approve an agreement with Stromhart LLC providing landscape maintenance at the O'Hare Nature Center and to authorize the village administrator to execute the agreement. All in favor? Okay, the next one, I'm gonna make a motion to approve the sustainability director contract. Do I have a second? Okay, resolve to approve the contract for Charlotte Binns as the sustainability director for the term June 1st, 2026 to May 31st, 2027 at a rate of $72.10 per hour for up to 1,000 hours annually. All in favor? Okay, do you want to talk a little bit about this?
Sure. So the risk grant, is tied to damage that, happened during, mitigating damage for storms similar to what happened during, Tropical Storm Ida. We are currently receiving, funding for a risk grant, to do the study on the Barney Brook. And this project is kind of a sister project of this, where we're putting in an application, through this program to essentially to redesign the flooding and the water course that flows from Station Road down underneath the aqueduct. And we have to get the board's approval before submitting an application.
Any questions? So I'm gonna, a motion to authorizing application to the Resilient Investments through Support and Capital Infrastructure Program. Do I have a second?
Second.
Whereas the village is applying to the New York State Office of Resilient Homes and Communities for funding under the Hurricane Ida Resilient Investments through Support and Capital Infrastructure Program to implement stormwater improvements by constructing the Station Road bypass. And whereas RISC infrastructure program funds will be dispersed on a cost incurred basis with grantees laying out construction funding prior to seeking reimbursement against the grants. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Irvington does hereby support the project and authorize the village administrator to submit an application in accordance with the provisions of the RISC infrastructure program, and upon approval, the said request commits to provide construction funds from the general fund balance to meet costs prior to applying for RISC reimbursement of such funds. All in favor? Katie, the next one is you.
Yes. All right, so this is a tax tertiary settlement for WFHA Westchester Restoration of 2 Main Street. They filed the petition for town assessment years 2020 through 2024. The village's total share of the refund would be $19,140. This was reviewed by Ed Lammers, and his recommendation was that the settlement was reached after a review of data concerning the subject property, discussions among the town and school district attorneys, as well as discussions with the petitioner's attorney. And the settlement is recommended because they don't believe a better result could be achieved as a result of a trial. And these tax tertiary settlements are budgeted for in our operating budget. This would come out of the current year budget. And after this, we have about 16,000 remaining on that line. And considering this is the last board meeting of the year, we're in a good position on that line.
Thank you. Any questions?
What happens if we vote no?
I guess it would go to trial for
Okay.
our piece. I think, and then, I know in his recommendation letter, if the village went to trial in this matter, the village would be responsible for interest on the refunds, the cost of a full appraisal, litigation fees and expenses. The cost would be extensive due to the many years at issue.
How often can they go back? Like, did they file this in 2020, or can you go back like?
I don't know how many years they can go back. I think the longest one I've seen was about 5 years. I don't know.
Well, they probably filed them all along.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, and did you hear back?
yeah, they filed them all along and they batched.
Yeah.
You have like, I think just a bit of time, right? to-
Yeah,
after
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
assessment.
They said probably put one in every year.
Sorry.
No, good questions. I make a motion authorizing the tax certiorari settlement WFH Westchester Restoration LP. Do I have a second?
Second.
Definitely need to after all those questions. That was yours. Whereas petitions having been filed by the WFHA Westchester Restoration LP hereinafter petitioner challenging real property tax assessments of the village of Irvington and the town of Greenberg's assessment rules with respect to the subject property for the 2020 to 2024 town assessment years with respect to parcels designated as section 2.80 block 29 lot 11.2. The property owner is WFHA Westchester Restoration LP. Address is 2 Main Street. The assessed year is 2020 to 2024. Whereas the petitioner's action are now pending in Supreme Court Westchester, and whereas the town and the petitioner have reached a mutually agreeable resolution, now therefore the village is authorized to effectuate a settlement commensurate with such terms. And as Katie mentioned, the village's share of the refund is $19,140.37. All in favor?
All right.
Okay, so this, you want to talk about this is the appraisal related to facilities planning.
Sure. So as part of the facilities planning study, it became apparent that we needed to have a appraisal done of several of the parcels being considered as a part of the facilities plan. This is not a service that BBB, the primary consultant, or any of the sub-consultants has. So we had to go outside for that. And we went and we got a proposal, and I've asked the board to approve this retroactive to, I believe, the 11th of May, which is when we asked the firm to come out and begin work on this project.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion for the approval of the proposal from McGrath and Co. Real Estate Appraisers. Do I have a second?
Second.
Resolved that the proposal for professional services with McGrath and Co. Real Estate Appraisers to perform exterior inspections of village-owned properties effective May 11, 2026 in the amount of $14,000 is hereby approved, and the village administrator is authorized to execute said agreement. All in favor? You want to talk some more about EV chargers and
I'd love to. This particular resolution pertains to the EV charger installation at the O'Hare Nature Center on Mountain Road. As the board and the community are probably aware, the work was halted at that site when the site plan commenced and trenching occurred and a panel began to be installed in the middle of the lawn, causing a visual obstruction and also damaging the roots of two native trees that are there. So after a careful review of the financing and the mitigating benefits we were trying to achieve in doing this installation, I negotiated with the engineering firm INF for a discount. That discount of $5,000 was calculated by working with CJ Riley, the village's arborist, to determine what the cost would be to replace the one tree that is at most risk of serious decline in the next 12 to 18 months. What the value of that tree would be to replace is what I base my ask on as far as the discount. So what they're doing as a part of the change order is they will be relocating the panel back away from where it currently was supposed to go, further against the rear of the wall, essentially, and additional materials and labor to trench to the front of the parking lot where the two chargers will be going.
I could comment on that just a little bit. I don't want to take a lot of time up on this, but the fact that they are giving us the $5,500 credit.
It's 5,000.
5,000. Is an admission that their project was done improperly. So in the case that there's any question with the state, we have one clear-cut example of them not following standard procedure, which is to not dig a trench beside a tree. And they admit that they did that, and they're granting us a $5,000 credit. So that gives us a little edge up on any potential, pushback from anybody that we're not accepting grants or whatever. And this is thanks to CJ, who did this for free. This report that he did was a 4-page report or whatever it was, quite detailed. Detailed enough that they just accepted it without question. And we got that report for free. Again, thanks to CJ and his credentials.
Any other questions? No? Okay. I'm gonna make a motion for the authorization to approve a change order number 1 for the O'Hare Nature Center EV installation project. Do I have a second? Resolved to approve change order number 1 with INF Associates LLC in the amount of $5,000 discount for the O'Hare Nature Center EV installation project, and to authorize the village administrator to execute such change order. All in favor? Lisa, you're up.
So patient.
Yes. Okay.
I think you guys all know.
Yeah, it's for, just tell us about the organics management.
It's part of the Climate Smart Communities program. We're hoping to get 12 points just from having strategy to develop a plan. So we're not like promising to do anything in particular. We're just saying this is what we think will work. But we're going to put it to the community, let everybody respond. So I assume there's a way to make it public for people on the website. Know how else we need to do it for people who don't have access to the iPad content, but we put it out there for everybody to comment on, and then get 12 points just for having strategy to develop a plan.
Yeah, so Lisa, for the benefit of people who might be reviewing this, can you just
Sorry. Climate Smart Community.
No, just don't, yeah, we know that, but give us the benefit of like getting more points and being like on a different level as a climate smart community. Just so we're understanding like, right, because you're saying like 12 points and I think some people know what that means, but not everyone knows.
Okay, so the more points we get, the higher our status is. And we just got the silver status, which is currently the highest you can get because they haven't finished developing the program for gold. But every time you do something, it lasts
1 or 2 years, and then you have to say that you're still doing it. For example, education and outreach, like I can say we did it back in 2024 and we got points for it in 2024, but then we can't just stop trying to educate. So you have to keep doing it. So when you get, every time you say you're still doing it, you get points. And then when you get enough points, you can be eligible for.
Right, okay, that's what I was trying to get to, right?
Yeah.
So the benefit of being a climate smart, I'm just saying this for the benefit of anyone, again, who might need clarity here. The benefit of being a climate smart community, silver level status, is that that's going to help with future.
All for money.
Future grant, yes. I just want to make sure that that's clear for the public.
Can you also just talk a little bit about what's an organics management plan? Because that's what we're approving.
Oh, sure. So the organics management plan it talks about mostly yard waste and food waste is what we're trying to minimize, I guess, or decrease. So we already have great system for collecting yard waste. It's curbside already. The most you need, I think, is 2 pickups per year, and we blow that out of the water easily. We also have a drop-off program already for food waste, which hopefully with the new facilities we will still have, but in the scaled down version, because we'll also have curbside food scrap pickup, hopefully, which is the big lift in this particular plan. We've also done all of the education and outreach, and both online and in person. And these are all requirements of the Climate Smart Communities program to get earned points.
I could publicly acknowledge Lisa for being the person who did the composting food scrap at our event. Whenever that was, 2 days ago. Thank you, Lisa, for doing that and doing it in other locations, and your annual or your farmers market presence. Managing that.
I think the best things we do are the recycle relays or the recycling jeopardy, the workshops that we do in various places. So we do them with the Boy Scouts, we've done twice, and we've done it at the Senior Citizen Center with those folks and Downingwood, and those are great. They're fun and people can ask questions in a very non-judgy atmosphere, I guess.
One other quick question. I know you've been working on this multi-page report. How long have you been? When did you first start that?
Oh, that was back in 2020. Yeah, we tried to get it, but there was no hope at the time for the grant money for the truck, and so we didn't get any traction in this room.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of that, and that credit I think goes to Todd Smith for foresight back in 2017 or 18 to apply for that grant. So, which is just now coming.
And I think for the public, this is gonna be somewhere accessible and it sort of on our website. Yeah. And it details, I think, all of it, so people can learn about all of the different things that have been done over the years, and the different programming, and then also sort of the going forward, what things we want to consider and consider as a community.
Yeah, and that we're open to changing pretty much anything, you know. We just have to tell them what we want to do.
Yeah. And I mean, you've incorporated the comments that we've given you into this report.
I have tried, yes. Okay. I tried to make it very clear that this is just a plan and can be changed.
Okay, perfect.
It's
One other
reasonable.
thing
It
I
has
could-
to be reasonable.
Could note that sadly, Lisa is intending on moving out of our community.
That's true.
Not too distant future. So we will need a replacement for her, and she will be hard to replace.
Got a bunch of.
Oh, sorry, you can't move, sorry. We can't. That's our next resolution.
Yeah, that's not bad.
You can stay for that one. Okay. Any other questions on the, okay. Thank you,
Thanks for
Lisa.
reading.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion to for the acceptance of the organics management plan. Do I have a second?
Second.
Resolved that the village board hereby accepts the 2026 organics management plan, and be it further resolved that the village administrator is hereby directed to consider and recommend how best to incorporate the goals of the plan into village operations, subject to budgetary, staffing, and other relevant considerations. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Reports of boards and standing committee, trustee liaison reports. David?
I'm gonna pass on that tonight. We had a long meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna pass, but I did want to quickly just say thanks to Deputy Mayor Bloom for a really fantastic volunteer celebration.
Round of applause.
Really well received. Really well attended and received, so thank you for all your work. With that, planning, executing it. It was,
Amazing.
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Josie. Trustee liaison report?
I'm gonna pass.
Kent?
You know, I'm gonna, in unity,
Yeah.
I'll remember vote tomorrow for the
Yes,
board
yes.
election.
Yeah.
So don't
The
forget that.
election
That's
is tomorrow.
important.
Village
Biggest success
administrator's
of our village.
report?
I just have a few things.
We're like, are we bullying you into nothing? Oh, sorry.
So just a couple things.
What was that?
So the Harriman Road drainage project, I wanted to provide a brief update. As of today, Brad Hurst Contracting is expecting to return on Wednesday, May 20th, to begin the relocation of 2 water mains adjacent to Victor Drive. Once that work is complete, the contractor will transition operations to the Harriman Road South Broadway intersection. It's anticipated that the South Broadway part won't start until possibly July. As far as Erie and Langdon water main replacement, Legacy Supply is approaching the end of the Langdon Avenue at Washington Avenue intersection. Pressure testing and chlorination of the new water mains are scheduled for Wednesday following the fly.
I'm sorry. I can't believe you kept reading. It was like on your glass, and then it was going like.
All right, now I'm gonna start over.
Sorry.
Pressure testing and chlorination of the new water main are scheduled for
Sorry.
Wednesday, followed by bacteria sampling on Thursday. Installation of the hydrants is expected to be completed by the end of day Friday, anticipating another 2 weeks following for paving and service transfers. Lastly, if the mayor will and board and public will indulge me, today I'd like to recognize my father, Dr. Stephen E. Hessler's 80th birthday, which would be today. As many generations have observed, we are all supported by the strong networks of family, friends, mentors, and community around us as we work to achieve our potential. My father has always been supportive of my path, encouraging me to stay engaged, stay curious, and to never be afraid to speak up when something matters. One of the important lessons he taught me is that everyone has something important to say and something to contribute. And when you have something worth saying, you better make sure your voice is heard. My success is his success, and who knows, I may even blame him for my failures too. He taught me by showing up, by listening, and by caring deeply about the people and community around him. I'd like to wish him a very happy 80th birthday.
Happy birthday.
So my only report is now with the tax warrant, passed, tax bills will go out, by June 1st. Only one bill is sent out. The first half of the taxes are due by June 30th without penalty. And the second half of taxes are due by December 31st without penalty. Any, taxes that are mailed, the official US postmark is evidence of the date mailed, and taxes can also be paid in person at the clerk's office or online through our online pay portal.
Thank you. Village attorney's report. Public comment.
Do my bookmark. There are no hands up online.
Review of action items. Continuing with analyzing the EV charger possibilities. I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
See,
You're
wasn't
gonna pass
it-
it.
Remember
Okay.
during one of the presidential debates, there was
Okay.
a lion.
The what?
During one of the